And while we are on the subject of cuisine, this shot of the Hotel Frontenac brings back a flood of memories. When Dad was there in 1975, and when I was there in 1988, this classic hotel was run by the Canadian Pacific Railway. Now it is owned by the Fairmont, still a Canadian firm. But I am sad to say that it has lost its past glory. But getting back to the tale of yesteryear, when the hotel was in its glory, a stay at the Frontenac, or at least a meal in the main dining room, was a treat to behold. To this day, I still make the blue cheese salad dressing I stole from the dinner table. This building, modified a number of times, dates back to 1893, when it was opened as the Chateau Frontenac. It was named after Louis de Badie, Count of Frontenac, who was governor of the colony of New France from 1672 to 1682, and from 1689 to 1698. The stone construction fits right into much of the city and the citadel of Quebec, which is the defensive fort dominating the Plains of Abraham. In addition to Quebec City, the folks toured Ottawa before heading to the Maritime provinces. I must explain that I have never been to any of the Maritimes, and all I really know about them is what I have gleaned from books or television. For example, I love the miniseries Anne of Green Gables about Prince Edward's Island. They visited a number of sites, but I will focus on Peggy's Cove, just outside of Halifax, and Cape Breton, both in Nova Scotia. Peggy's Cove is one of the numerous picture postcard villages that dot the Nova Scotia coastline. This lighthouse shot is iconic and has been taken by numerous photographers, both professional and amateur. With this village on St. Margaret's Bay, it is all about the drives and the food. From the slides, it is easy to tell that there was a beautiful shot around every turn and bend in the road that runs around this bay. The industry of Peggy's Cove is fishing, from small trawlers rather than big factory ships. The image here is like so many pictures labeled Peggy's Cove in the collection. There is another shot showing Mother and Harold and Jean Schwartz enjoying a lobster. This image was included, not for its scenic value, although it is a pretty fair shot, because it shows Mother and Jean and Harold Schwartz. From the collection, it is pretty clear that the folks drove around all of Nova Scotia. Many of the slides are labeled from place 1 to place 2, such as Sydney to Baddeck. A large area of Cape Breton in the north is devoted to Cape Breton Highlands National Park. Through this preserve runs the Cabot Trail. As I have explained before, Dad loves scenic grandeur. There is some history along the way. At Glace Bay, there is a miners' museum. That spot pays homage to the coal mining that took place there during the second half of the 19th century and the first part of the 20th. There is a reconstruction village depicting life during two time periods, first in the 1850s and then about 1900. Retired miners demonstrate coal mining. Tourists don period outfits and can actually descend into the mine. Given the family history of gold mining in the Yukon, I'm sure Dad found this interesting. One of the things that they witnessed was the famous tidal bore on the Bay of Fundy at Monocton. This is back on the mainland in the province of New Brunswick. The bore is a wall of water that travels upstream with the tides from the bay. While the tides are the greatest in the world, the bore is nowhere near as large as the 50-foot tides that occur here. The last place in Canada, this trip, was Campobello Island on the border with Maine. There they toured the Roosevelt Vacation Home. After Canada, Mom and Dad traveled south back into the United States, arriving in the Boothbay region of Maine. This is an area with which I am familiar. On my first road trip on my own, when I was 17, I visited this region. In fact, some of Dad's pictures are almost duplicates of my early colored slides. You can tell that Dad had the gift of seeing in order to compose a great picture. He took many pictures of the schooners in Camden, Maine. While in the area, they visited Arcadia National Park and Cadillac Mountain. During my trip in 1960, there are shots of a Down East clambake. I toured Boothbay Harbor on a tour boat run by Dad's classmate, Peanuts Winslow. However, by 1975, Captain Winslow, like Dad, had retired and sold the boat Argo. Because this image of the Chateau Chenonceau is so iconic, I just had to say something about the trip to Scotland and France. I have no idea when this trip began or ended, but it was a return trip to areas Dad had been before. Although Dad took many pictures in Great Britain and Paris, they were mostly reproductions of shots he captured on earlier trips. I believe their traveling companions were Ed and Reba Mayer. Against his better judgment, he purchased some interior images of churches. To no one's surprise, not even Dad, they faded to red within a year's time. They visited Paris, the Riviera, and then the Loire Valley. That is where this image of the Chateau Chenonceau on the Cher River was taken. In order to keep the size of this chapter under control, I am skipping the trip to Israel in 1979. The history of modern Greece is a tale of political chaos. The word chaos came into the English language from the Greek, so it is a particularly good word to use. Fortunately for the folks, in 1979, and for us in 1997, the country was in a period of calm. This view of Mom in Syntagma Square, Constitution Square, has the tomb of the unknown soldier and Parliament in the background. I would have taken the same shot, but in 1997 they were digging up the place for a new subway line and subway station in this spot. Their trip to Greece was a classic trip. They flew to Athens and then took a cruise on a small ship, the Aquarius. With them on this trip, which also included Turkey, was Goldie and Ed Coopersmith. The trip to Greece was documented in 200 slides. This is one of the largest expenditures of film Dad made. This is due to the photogenic nature of the country and its islands. As Mom and Dad climbed the hill leading to the Acropolis, Dad must have paused to take this shot. Like so many of his images, he framed his subject with the foreground. We found Athens hot in summertime. The folks went there in the spring, so they must have avoided the heat. On the back side of the Acropolis is the Plaka, a quaint marketplace. Mom did some shopping at a flea market there, before continuing around the base of the Acropolis to the ancient market, the Agora. While the Plaka is functioning still as a market today, the old market is a museum and its archaeological dig sites. When we visited the Agora, we spent a bit of time talking to young archaeologists who were digging in the very hot Athens heat. Pat and I find it hard to party late into the night. Athens is a very late city. Dinner does not start until 9 p.m., and the partying really does not get started until after 10. It is clear from this image my parents were under no such constraints as we are when they attended this taverna, complete with a floor show. From other pictures, the taverna show featured Greek men in military show costumes, meaning men in short skirts. They performed an acrobatic dance routine. Not to be outdone by this act, the women performed belly dancing. Once the audience got warmed up, no doubt fueled by ouzo, the band invited the crowd to join in traditional Greek dance in the style of Zorba the Greek.